everyone turning out. And we've got a great speaker tonight, Greg Teysen, the third generation of Teysens here in Mackinaw City. And he's going to give us that basically 100-year history, almost 100-year history tonight. So on with the show. Greg, thank you.
Okay, well, happy 2024, everybody. And, welcome all you Spartan fans. I mean, Wolverine, something about Wolverines. They're doing something. They were in the news. I don't know, something's going on. But anyway, welcome. Yes, I'm banking that what I have to say and the visual portion of it, with the help of Leanne over here, will make the presentation somewhat interesting. I've been sharing with both Leanne and Sandy my concern on this show and tell program tonight is that I'm either gonna go too fast or go too slow. I just want to make sure that when the time comes to quit, I look up and half of you are not closing off. So maybe that's good. Those are in metal chairs. Maybe the cold will keep you awake right now. I don't know. But this is a compilation of pictures, and the way my strategy and my presentation was, I guess, similar to what I did during my dad's memorial. I broke it down into 9/10 decades, and I'm going to speak on, I guess you could call it the highlights of each decade and what took place the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and so forth regarding our business. Also, and how our business interacted with the general economy, both here in the Straits area as well as the state of Michigan. So you're going to see a lot of people pictures. I'm in the hospitality business, so that sort of makes sense. Most of the people are just going to be that to you, just people. Some of them, who knows, maybe you. We have a few alumni. Is that right, Mary? I don't know. Mary can stand up, and Ralph, and others can stand up and maybe correct me or something. But initially I asked if these lights could be shut off. I don't know if you can see okay, but because of the streaming portion of the equation, it's probably best to have these overhead lights on. So with that said, I'm going to use my notes, but I'm also going to just point as the slides come up and talk about them. So the title here is The Beginning. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to be doing this. I go like this or whatever. Okay, so my Grandpa Teysen, off to the far left, those are his two brothers and sister. And Luxembourg, I don't know if you know where that is. For those of you who don't, it's a little Michigan-sized country nestled in between Germany, France, and Netherlands. If you're into World War II lore, that's where the Battle of the Bulge was fought. Now, hallelujah, we still stay in touch with our European relatives. Again, I'm only 2 generations away from this ye old country. Brought my little pointer here. A couple years ago, 4 years ago, Vicki and I went to Europe, to Luxembourg. They've been here a number of times, and we've been there a handful of times. These people here, this is my dad's cousin, Raymond. Raymond, I don't know which one. Dad is gone. I wish Dad was doing this right now. One of these 2 brothers of my grandpa here is Raymond's dad. I don't know which one it is. Raymond is still alive and kicking. I got a Christmas card from him. He's 98, 96, 98, up there in age, doing very well. These are cousins, other relatives that tie in with the Binsfield family. You may remember the name Connie Binsfield. Connie's husband John his roots were back in the Luxembourg days too. Okay, we'll move on. And again, I hope I can keep this moving because there's quite a bit. Okay, bingo, we're in the 1920s. Okay, Grandpa and Grandma were I'm not sure where they were married at. Dad was born in Saginaw. Grandpa ran the Saginaw Club, which is still in existence today, kind of a posh, I'm not sure if it's strictly a men's club or not, but it's a private club, and Grandpa was the manager there for, oh boy, Dad was born in 21, I believe about 7 years. Okay, Leanne, we'll go to the next. Okay, now, it's a little hard to see here, but this is my Grandma Teysen. The date there is 1924. The reason my grandparents moved up from Saginaw up to Mackinaw principally were two reasons. You can flip it again. Grandpa was an avid hunter and fisherman. He loved to fish, and so you've heard about all the great places to come in northern Michigan. The other principal reason they moved or came north, I don't know if any of you have been plagued by something you don't hear about too much now, that being hay fever, kind of an allergy problem. I don't know if any of you have hay fever. So he got word, who knows from who, friends, whatever, hey, go up north and your hay fever disappears. So the combination of fishing, hunting, and no hay fever urged my grandpa to say, hey, let's go up and check this North Country out. Okay, Michigan Central Railroads. Of course, the railroads were up and running pretty big by the 1920s, and Grandpa definitely was not only a visionary, but he was a hard-working businessman, and he saw the potential of having a business in the Straits area. Okay, we'll go for our next. Okay, this is a picture that maybe some of you saw at the beginning here. Back to the New York or Central Railroad, this piece of property right here, this little burg, was where my grandpa first set up his, I guess you could call it his hot dog gift shop stand. And he leased the property from the railroad company. Okay, Henry Ford, what's this got to do with our business? Well, Henry Ford, of course, we all know about Henry Ford, and he came through the Straits multiple times. Apparently he had property in the UP, and I think specifically wooden spokes for his automobiles were, that's where they came from. Anyway, because of the location of my grandpa's restaurant there, Henry Ford would often come in and patronize the restaurant, and the two men were on first name basis. I can't say Grandpa and he were good friends, but to be on first name basis, you have to have some type of friendship established. My dad tells me the story. A lot of what I'm about to share on to you are just stories passed down to me. It must have made an impression on my dad, who would have been just a kid. Mr. Ford was a real skinny, frail, wiry kind of a guy, and when he come to the restaurant, he ordered 2 poached eggs, dry toast, orange juice, and coffee. Why my dad remembers that, I don't know, but apparently every time he came in for breakfast, that's what he got. Michigan, again, was at the infancy of its tourism for the average person. Prior to that, the 1880s, 90s, so forth, those people who took vacations and went on cruises were usually the upper crust, I guess, of society. The commoner was, vacation. What is that? What was it? But more and more with the improved highway system, the improved automobiles, more free time, Michigan/Mackinaw was beginning to cater to more of the traveling public. one thing I've been pointing out to Roy and others here, the various paperwork I've been finding at my parents' house. And the Tourist Bureau business card here, I was aware that my grandpa was involved in tourism. It was, of course, a marketing tool. But what I didn't know, there's a whole stack of these someplace back home, was the date on this little business card, Mackinaw Tourist Bureau. It was dated 1926. And I'm not exactly sure who Lee Hartwell is. Lee Hartwell is the secretary / manager, and the other side of the card said Harry Teysen, president. Okay, now Grandpa adapted, I guess, to the environment that was around him, and the theme of the Straits then, as it is today, is the Native American or Indian theme. And much of the 20s, 30s, and into the 40s, Grandpa dealt in with the Indian culture. And these two pictures, this is a shot of my dad as a little kid and the Indian chief. And this family here apparently lived right outside the restaurant gift shop. And it was in this 20s and the 30s that my grandpa became better acquainted with the Indian families, buying Indian crafts, also formulating a desire to collect Indian artifacts, which initially got our museum idea started. Okay, the dorm. I'll mention that down the road. This is the home where my grandparents, my dad grew up. This is behind the old shoe, I still call it the old red shoe house, whatever place is. Yeah, Merrill. Anyway, it's called the dorm because in later years, our high school, college kids that were from out of town, out of state, lived in this home here, which was renovated to have plenty of seats up here if you like, Patrick. Come on up. So anyway, that's just a side note. That was probably built sometime in the late 20s, and that's where my dad grew up. Okay, we jump into the 30s. Of course, we pretty much know what was taking place in America in the 30s. These are just random shots of what was going on. Again, the Indian waitresses, many of them, most of them were from the Levering Cross Village area. And throughout the summer, we will have relatives of these folks who are, of course, long deceased, and share that was my grandma, or that was my aunt, or whatever the case is. And again, Grandpa was beginning to not just adjust, but to get these folks involved in the tourist business as well. I don't know the specifics, but Fort Michilimackinac, before it was renovated here, Grandpa had a little concession stand there. And again, I think that this was all evolving in his love for history. Throughout the 30s and into the early 40s, renovation was made on the little hot dog stand that you see there, the 1926 picture that I showed earlier. And like a lot of businesses, you make a profit, and you think, oh boy, I just made this much money. But unfortunately, or maybe this is how the game is played, you got to put that money back into the business. And so that's what happened actually throughout the history of our businesses, and no different than any other business. So this kept on growing. Okay, the 1940s too were very turbulent times, and sort of getting ahead of myself, but I often have wondered how in the world, not just my grandpa, but anybody in the northern Michigan area, how did they survive the 30s and 40s? The 40s, of course, are wartime times, and who in the world's traveling, who are your customers? Okay, so this is a shot of my grandpa and dad. Dad was a officer in the Army Air Corps. Met my mom at Michigan State College. And again, I gotta be careful I don't get off on little bunny trails here, but okay, I'll go to the next one here. Okay, the war came and ended. Dad had his degree as a in restaurant hospitality management, but he also had a degree in or not a degree, but he was qualified as a meteorologist. And he was at a crossroads in his life, he and my mom. He was offered a job, I believe it was Delta, could have been United, to work for, say it was Delta, to work for Delta, and I believe that was going to be in North Carolina. And he had a decision to make. Do I want a career in meteorology, working for an airline, or do I want to return to northern Michigan and work in our family business? He chose, obviously, the family business.
I gave it away, sorry.
And let's see, what was I going to say here? Okay, now, sometime before the war ended, again, I don't know if they were 2-year or 3-year leases with my grandpa and the railroad. Something happened before the war's end where my grandpa, the railroad did not renew his lease, and they gave him a very short time to pack up and move. And fortunately, they found property right down the block, and this next shot may show that. Okay, this is 416 South Huron. Okay, so this is now after the war. My dad is back, and there was a lot of I guess hard feelings that my dad had with the railroad company, but fortunately there was a place to call home, I guess. And we'll show that. And it too was renovated a number of times. Where we presently are is our third location. This was location number 2, and it was at 416 South Huron for approximately 50 years. Now, this is the interior shot of the restaurant then. After the war, my dad got back. He was running the food business. My grandpa was running the gift business. Back in the 30s, a decade or two back, my grandparents did something that most people didn't know where in the world Florida was. They did the Snowbird Act, and they were going down to Florida as early as 33 or 34, something like that. And my dad, would periodically go to Florida too in the wintertime. He got the idea, I'm sure he got the idea from some of the food establishments in Florida, the cafeteria style service. Keep in mind, we all know this, our season is very short, May to October, if that. So we have a short period of time to make a year's income. The major benefit of a cafeteria, this is why you see them in schools, factories, commercial operations, you can feed a lot of people in a short period of time, sort of like a Gatling gun versus a bolt action. So anyway, Dad converted the sit-down restaurant into a cafeteria style, and that began late 40s, early 50s. Okay, now, most of us are familiar with, at least the name, Shorter's Gifts in Petoskey, and what's that got to do with Teysens Gifts? Again, my grandpa ran the gift shop portion, and Mr. Shorter, Carl Shorter, was his assistant in the late 40s, I want to say 47, 48. Mr. Shorter parted ways with my grandpa. Hallelujah, it wasn't because they were at odds with each other, but he wanted to start up his own business. So he moved to Petoskey, and here's a shot. A lot of similarities you'll see, you know, the Indian crafts, the items that were sold were very similar to what my grandpa was doing. The next slide, I believe, is Shorter's today, Grandpa Shorter's. And, you know, we don't peer over their shoulder, and I don't think they peer over ours, but if you go to their store, you'll see a lot of similarities in products that they're selling. Jennifer Shorter is the third generation of this operation now. And they're great people. Okay, Paul Gord. Who knows Paul Gordon? GFS? Anyone know what GFS stands for? Gordon Food Service. Okay, back again, this is in the 40s now. Mr. Gordon was I don't want to call him a lowly salesman, but basically he was going door to door selling his wares. He and my dad struck up a very good friendship. Again, I'm in the people business. I know hundreds and hundreds of people. I meet people all the time. If I were to have a top 10 list of most people I admire, Mr. Gordon is in that top 10 category. And he was a devoted Christian. He's no longer living. He passed in 2007. I knew his brother John. He's no longer living either. But Mr. Gordon, Paul Gordon, was just a true gentleman, a great man. He talked the talk, he walked the walk. And just for the fun of it, if you want to get home, when you go home tonight, tomorrow, whatever, look up Paul Gordon obituary and see the comments that many people are feeling the way I feel about the man. Anyway, he and my dad hit it off really well. Of course, his career really rocketed to what it is today. Okay, into the 50s we are. Now, the shot that we saw at the gift shop, it was just a real casual picture that Dad took. And I say casual, Dad wasn't out there composing, doing a Roy Cole imitation here. In fact, he told me he was on his way to work, and he just stopped, and the scene that you see is what was going on during the completion of the bridge. As the bridge became more and more, this was in the spring of '57. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. And I'm sure the naysayers saying, oh, this bridge can never be built, at this stage in the game, they're probably thinking, oh my goodness sakes, I think this bridge is going to be a reality. Well, anyway, this, along with the next slide, keep in mind, Mackinaw is a tiny little burg, little flashing light community. I don't think Mackinaw is ever going to see the changes as we did in the 50s. I've listed a handful of things that came up during that decade. The Chamber of Commerce was started. I'm sure there was a pretty much a carryover from the Tourist Bureau that we spoke of earlier. The many motels that sprang up. Actually, you know, when I'm talking about these decades, a lot of times there's overlapping between each decade. It's not a black and white. This is what happened in because there was a lot of motel expansion in the 60s and 70s as well. Mackinaw got a new high school, the new Catholic Church, where my direction here, across the street, and of course the interstate highway all across America, and this is of course is part of it here. The infamous pipeline west of town. I don't want to talk too much about that right now. I'll blow a gasket myself. But that was being constructed too. This happens to be me, my dad taking a picture of me. I and the pipeline are the same age. My mom tells me the summer of '53, she remembers three things. Number one, being pregnant for me. How hot it was that summer. It was a real beastly hot summer. And then thirdly, the gas pipeline was being constructed. Fort Michilimackinac, and we'll hear more about that in this year with the various programs happening. But the expansion of the fort was big in the town. The Greyhound Bus Depot was, that's not quite true, because the Greyhound bus operation really began in the late 40s. Back to the situation where my grandpa had to get out, the railroad didn't want to renew his lease. They later came back and asked my dad, hey, look, would you be interested in this property, it was around 20 plus acre property. And my dad was still very upset with the railroad personnel, how they booted my grandpa out, and he declined. The Greyhound bus people were next in line, if you would, and they got the property. I know my dad later regretted that move. He was basing it on emotion versus business common sense, because he could have got it for practically nothing. Okay, this is just another shot of the 50 inside the gift shop. Again, the Indian baskets, the Indian wares were very, very popular. I have a couple still hiding on the table that you can look at afterwards. Just an overview of what the world looked like in 1950. Ralph, you could probably relate to this somewhat. I think this was, I don't know, 56, 7, 8, somewhere along that line. Many of you probably have gone to antique stores across the lands. A lot of times antique stores will have postcard sections, and you go rummaging through, what's the first state, Alabama down to Wyoming. Anyway, and oftentimes you'll find Michigan postcards, and some of these will be in there. Okay, into the 1960s we are, and again the motel progression is still going on, and it was a ongoing hobby of my dad, or mostly my grandpa, specifically the Indian artifacts that he collected over the years. And the museum, the Indian Museum, which was, most of the artifacts dealt with Indian artifacts. Later it expanded into logging, the logging era, the pioneer days. Shot here I think will be showing my dad in his scuba diving days here in the Straits. So that's back in the days where you legally could have dove down, picked up something from the bottom of the lake and brought it up. It was not Dad's intention to make money by doing this. It was rather to display and show the nautical history of the Straits. Dad also became quite active in the Mackinaw Island State Park system, specifically the commission. This is a position where you're appointed by the governor. This happens to be Governor Romney right here. And Dad was on the commission for many, many years. And he thoroughly enjoyed it. What he did not enjoy was the politics of it. The park commission is sort of a big fish in a small pond. There were, I don't want to get into all the bad part of it. Bottom line is, Dad really enjoyed working with the state parks and what they tried to purvey. Okay, Royal American Ice Cream Parlor, what was this all about? Another entity that took place in the 1960s. This particular building is now the laundromat, if you know where that is. There's only one laundromat in town. Dad had the property back in the 50s. In 1960, it was either 62 or 63, this building was constructed, and it was primarily an ice cream shop, although he did have gifts in it as well. For probably, 10, 12 years, there were only two places a person could get ice cream, the Dairy Queen and the Royal American. We used to refer to it as the RA. I'm working at the RA. In fact, short of doing some paper delivery and selling worms to Kaufman's Hardware, my first job was working at the RA as a as a soda jerk. These are a couple shots of various folks that worked there. Into the 70s. Okay, now, again, Dad, a lot of renovation to the building from what it was early in the 50s. The other thing that Dad was consistently working on was the museum. You can flip it over here, Leanne. Museum upgrade. The building on the right here is the Beaumont Tower, Michigan State. And Dad had a number of solid quality connections with the archaeological department there at MSU. And there were some professional curators that came and worked on the museum that was one of the major attractions, not only to our business, but to the town. Okay, the other big thing taking place in the 70s was, and a lot of people don't know this, we got into the fudge making business. It's been pushing 50 years now. And that still continues to this day. So that was a big deal here. And every year we have all kinds of flavors and so forth. Actually, this picture was taken last summer, but the people are still devouring fudge left and right. Okay, the 1980s. Okay, we did a variety of changes, some marketing alterations on our logos and so forth. Cabbage Patch Doll, one thing especially in the gift business, not so much the food business, things change all the time. People are constantly, every spring when we open up, people are saying, well, what's new? What's new? So there's always something new and exciting in the retail business. This Cabbage Patch was sort of a flash in the pan compared to what we'll talk about down the road, Beanie Baby. But this came into the scene in the 1980s. Okay, what's my wedding picture doing in this collage of stuff here? We were the first bride and groom to be married at the Mackinaw City Bible Church here. And I put it in here because it's very similar to the situation that my mom and dad were after the war. Dad had a decision: do I want to be a meteorologist, or do I want to be in the retail hospitality business? Okay, so this was in the early 80s. You can move on here. This is not nobody I know. This is a stock photo, but this was sort of I put it in here too because it was a gamble. We just got married. Now, what do we want to do with our lives? Do I want to take the baton from Dad and run a restaurant and gift shop? We had some other options in the playing cards, but that was the reason for that. Okay, Circle, Michigan bus tour for, again, back to the cafeteria style. You could serve a lot of people in a short period of time, and serving buses are a great way to travel. For many years, a majority of our bus customers, majority of them, were senior citizens. I got to be very careful what I say here. All of a sudden, long before I started dyeing my hair white, we took our first bus tour last year to Branson, and I must admit it was very, very enjoyable. It was really nice. Circle, Michigan, what in the world's that all about? This was an organization that was made up of light businesses that catered to the traveling bus tour crowd. And oddly enough, Circle, Michigan was invented, formulated right here in Mackinaw. And it was a great organization. Basically, it was a gigantic marketing gathering. And one thing that I think even my grandpa realized this, when you're serving the public and you want them to come to your property, it's just not all about me. It's like all of us are competitors, but yet we're all allies. And so Circle, Michigan was made up of all kinds of lodging, of restaurants, of attractions, places that a bus tour would love to go to. So we became quite involved in telling the world about how great not only Mackinaw was, and Teysens and blah, 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 but how great Michigan was. Because bus tours come from all over America. And you can go to the next one here. So this is a picture of one of the many, many shows we attended. And they were all over America. And you'd go there and sit down and talk to the bus, I don't know which one's the bus person. Why should they come to our property? And then you tell them how great you are and blah, 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 what we can do for you. And then, again, while you're promoting yourself, you're also promoting the whole area. And these were very, very positive gatherings and very well worth it. It was a lot of work, a lot of fun, but a lot of work. Along with this, we expanded, we did some catering before, but we expanded our catering to the following places. I think our largest group that I recall was a Shasta. Shasta's a motorhome camping trailer company. And I think there was, I can't remember, it was 1,200 or 1,500 people we catered to. And again, this was back to the bus tour thing. Bus, who doesn't love a picnic? This happened to be a chicken barbecue going on. But it was just one way to appeal to a bus tour that came to the Straits, whether they're staying at the campgrounds and motels or nearby park. And oftentimes we would have entertainment too. This happens to be Denny Beach and Scott Douglas, I think, picking away. So they'd come and enjoy a meal and then be entertained musically. Okay, now I'm going to put the brakes on for a second here. You've probably heard the expression, do you want to see the man in charge, or do you want to see the lady that knows what's going on? So I'm going to zip the lip for a minute here. I'm going to bring wife Vicki up here, and she's going to share the changes that took place in the 1990s. I think maybe when she's done, I may run through the visual version of this. But if you want to use these pictures, it's up to you.
I'm not sure what else. I'll just
Okay.
a little bit.
She'll give her little spiel about the 90s, and I'll carry on once she's done.
Okay, well, Greg's doing such a good job, but he wanted me to implement in a little bit too, because I've been involved with the business ever since we've been married. Actually, I started out working for Greg's dad when I was 15 years old. So I've been a part of what's been going on at Teysens for a long time also. Started out working in the restaurant part, and then went to the gift shop. And then after we got married, I started to run the gift shop. And I was first gonna stay at home when our first child was born. I was gonna be a stay-at-home mom, but they couldn't keep me away because Greg was always down at the store, so I would go down there quite often. And then I ended up starting to work in the gift shop and took over the gift shop. And something I think, a turning point I think what Greg wanted me to explain about was in the 90s, or maybe it is in the next picture, is that picture?
Well, maybe, try the next one, Leanne, see what happens.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right now, this building here is, right now, I think Tay Stewart is in there with her business, that's right next to the caramel corn shop. And when we had our gift shop, it was behind the restaurant, where the location was. And in the gift shop, it was only, we closed the end of October, and so then everything had to shut down. Well, I had this vision of wanting to be open longer. I wanted to be able to decorate for Christmas. There were so many fun things you could buy for Christmas and all that kind of stuff. So we wanted to see if we could expand our business. So we moved down and took over this side. It would have been here in that building. And we were open then through Christmas there. But I look at that as time was changing, Greg's dad was getting, so that was in the middle to the early to mid-90s. We were probably there maybe 5 years, something like that, 5, 6 years. And, but I look at it as how God went before us on what the direction was that he was going to be leading us in. because Greg's dad was getting ready to retire, and we were wondering, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna continue on with the store? Are we gonna be in the gift business? We had 2 young boys at that time, and Greg was doing the restaurant, I was doing the gift shop, and it was just, there wasn't the time to be with family as much, and so we thought we need to maybe do something different. And so we had a friend of ours challenge us and said, why are you doing what you're doing? And we were kind of like, because this is what we do. This is what Teysens do. You have a restaurant, this is what we do. And this person challenged us to say, well, you know, Greg really has a talent in photography and he enjoys art and everything like that. So why don't you go in that direction and go with the gift shop? And you've always wanted to do the gift shop more, and on the main street of town is where the place to be with the gift shop. So we started to look into that direction. And when I say how God started leading us, God just opened up the doors for us. And it ended up being, well, where are we gonna go? And there was a piece of property on the main street of town that we were gonna pursue and build a place at. And it's where it used to be called Stoika's gas station there. It's where the credit union is now. And we thought we were gonna build a gift shop there, we were gonna do put our museum and do all that kind of stuff. Well, God closed the door on that because he had a better place for us to be. And we had no idea where our store is located right now, where that property is, and maybe some of you can remember back then, it was like a playground. They had like a swing set and a slide or something on that property. And I always thought it was just owned by the city, so I never thought, well, why would we think of that? Well, I had a sales rep that I was working with had then told me about the property and said, why don't you go look at that property? And so we did, and now that's where we're at. And it ended up being, at that time, Bill Shepler had the idea of doing the crossings, and he had already bought the property where the railroad is. And it would have just had an entrance over by Huron Street, on Huron Street. And then when we were able to get that property, we contacted Bill Shepler and said, hey, we've got some property here, why don't we work together on that? And so that's how the crossings was able to have a entrance from Central Avenue. Anyways, all that to say, I just wanted to share with how people might have always wondered, well, why did you go down to Main Street if you're always down there? And it was just, that's how we got there. And then we first started out with our gift shop, where we put the gift shop in, and we had an extra, built the gift shop, then we had a couple of spaces, and so the next year we opened up our gallery, and that's where Greg was with his artwork, and was able to do photography, and then he got more artists to come in, and we had the gallery, and then let's see, I don't know what the next picture is. Was that?
I'm not sure which one it was. It might be just.
Okay, that's just showing what the store is. We had the 3 shops, and then from there, since we had the gallery, that was just pictures showing of I guess you could do that, because I talked about that. That was Bill Shepler and
Bill Crane.
Yeah, Bill Crane in the early on stages of the crossings. Let's see what the next one is there. And that was our mission statement when we opened our gift shop up downtown, was that we wanted to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that he's entrusted to us, and have a positive influence on other people who come in contact with Tyson's gift shop. And that's something we've tried to do through the years, and hopefully we've always had a positive influence on everybody that has come through our doors. And anything else you want me to be telling? You were going to say.
That pretty well covers it. Well, again, the big change of the 90s was Dad was phasing out, and this opportunity to come downtown. The other part of it was the food business, and I've shared this with Randy Darrow, and Nick Yegi. It's there's a lot more that can go wrong. It's a lot more stressful, I must admit, than the gift and retail. The downsides, actually, the two together, food and gifts, is a 1-2 combination. That's probably what got my grandpa going on that. And I think of Cracker Barrel as a good example. Most of you have been to Cracker Barrel. The food and gift is a great combo. But raising the family, the young family, we were gone a long time. Hallelujah for my mom and my grandma, but it wasn't their responsibility to be raising these little children. It was ours. So that was a major reason why we decided to change, shift gears. Okay, let's see what, I'm trying to remember what was next here. Oh yes, again, the emphasis was the gallery, okay. And these are just, like to say, happy customers, and that's what we're looking for. No matter if we're selling pictures or whatever. Some more. Now that gentleman, just for what it's worth too, Call the Wild, you've heard of that. That's Bill Johnson and his wife. Great people that they are. Minnetonka, of course, that was another phase of our business, which still is. I don't know when Grandpa T got involved with Minnetonka, but if it wasn't 46, it was before 50, I know that. They've been dealing with Minnetonka for a long, long time. Just a shot of our crew and Minnetonka. Okay, now we're 2000s. Okay, I'm trying to remember what. Okay, yes, the emphasis on the 2000s was we wanted to spend more. Yes, we wanted to spend time with kids, but they were in high school at the time, and we extended our winter hours. We were open every weekend during the winter. And okay, the next one. Along with that, like we try to do, again, that's the challenge of any retail business, is we want to sell what people want. And made in the USA, because boy, that's almost an oxymoron, you know? But finding local art, regional, state, and country. You know, we go to gift shows, which you'll be seeing that in a second here, and more and more you're seeing majorly emphasized areas of these gift shows, which are nothing more than gift shops. You stop here and pick it up, stop here, and so forth. You'll see more and more emphasis on made in the USA, which is nice to see. Okay, the business and the retail end started with Indian art, and towards the end, this is now 2000, early 2000s, our Indian artists were literally, figuratively dying off. These happen to be porcupine quill boxes. The next image here, Bernie Parkey. Bernie was probably the finest quill maker of this, I can't say of this generation, but he did tremendously fine work. And Bernie passed in 2002 or 3, something like that. And he was sick the last, 6 months, 8 months. And anyway, Dad went out and bought as many quill boxes from Bernie as he could, knowing that once he's gone, you're just not going to find the work, and that was true to be the case. He died in the spring. We had a full display case, probably 24 boxes, and Dad never had much markup on these quality pieces of art. His emphasis was to encourage the Indians to keep making them. But every customer we sold these to, I would share with them. You didn't have to be a hard sell salesman. You were buying an investment, and if anybody who bought a quill box, and this would include you, if you did, if you ever wanted to sell them back, I'd be glad to buy them back from you, because they're very, very scarce and very rare. We were beginning different. There were different artists that we would buy from, but nothing as good as Bernie's. The Indian basket, again, Grandpa Teysen sold lots of these. Those went by the wayside too. A lot of these, towards the end, the 2000s and 90s, they came from the Chippewas in the central Michigan area. I can't remember the name of the band. Anyway, they were primarily ash baskets. But again, as lovely as they were, and the quality and so forth, you want to sell what people want to buy, and the baskets and quill works just were not overly appealing to the public. This is just an example of some small birch bark Indian art. In fact, that was purchased not too long ago, probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. A lady from Ontario came knocking on our door, said, would you like to buy? Now, back in the 20s and 30s and 40s, these probably would have sold very, very quickly. I bought maybe 2 dozen. They're tiny little jobs. And we still have 2/3 of them still. And, you know, they don't sell for much, but they're not very appealing to people. They're more decorative art. Okay, the Daisy Bridge Patch. Many of you know Raymond Daisy. Mr. Daisy developed the design, the arrowhead design, which once Mrs. Daisy, the wife of Ray, passed away, we asked the Daisy family, is it okay if we were to reinstate, use these bridge patches that Mr. Daisy, you know, invented? And we got the green light from them, and so we carry these. Of course, they're focused in on the bridge walk, so every year you get a new color, but this basic idea is the same. The original, you can switch it. Okay, you'll oftentimes see folks walking around Labor Day, you know, with these. Well, these bridge patches came either from us or from the Daisy family. But if they're, I don't know when the last, Roy, you probably know more about
The first one I got is 1970.
70, okay.
Yeah, no, I think there was.
It's funny you mention that, because this next slide, the pageant.
Yep.
The pageant. This is where the original idea came from. 1970, you probably can't read it very well, but 1970, what was going on? The massacre at Fort Mackinaw. Now, whatever happened in 1971, I'm not sure, but all of a sudden we're in 1972. It's not the massacre anymore, it's what? It's the Fort Mackinaw pageant. Bottom line is the whole arrowhead patch concept began with the pageant. It had nothing to do with the bridge walk. It was just a carryover. Okay, Beanie Babies. Any of you have Beanie Babies in your closet? Or, well, we always joke, but maybe it's not joking. We put our kids through college with these things. It's one of these Babe Ruth, Barry Sanders kind of product that you probably will get once in a lifetime. I cannot believe the quantity and the craziness that customers had. Vicki remembers it well. I don't remember the year exactly, but we get a phone call from the police department in the wintertime. Would we be open on weekends? What's going on? Is somebody place on fire? What's going on? Well, there's a bunch of people in front of your store. This is like 7 o'clock in the morning in the winter. What's going on? They were lined up because these tried and true Beanie Baby lovers would follow the UPS trucks around and know what stores carry Beanie Babies. And some of them were more prestigious than others. Well, anyway, there was a lineup. It reminded me of the Black Friday stuff you hear, I couldn't believe it. Went down there half, with it, pajamas and what's going on? People out there freezing to death. What are you opening up? And they'd buy hundreds of dollars worth of Beanie Babies. So, get ready for Beanie Babies. 2010. Okay, let's see. I can't remember what's going on here. Okay, again, we want to work. We have been working closely with the Chamber of Commerce. This happened to be Miss Michigan. We had many Miss Michigans come in to the store and parade around. They did their thing. Of course, we worked also in the crossings for a long time. There was something called the Merchants Association. All the businesses, kind of a mini Chamber of Commerce, and we all again worked together to make everybody successful. Let's see, then here, 2016, we celebrated our 90th anniversary. So we had a big cake and celebration here. Gathering my mom in the middle there in the yellow. At the time, our 2 granddaughters, Ainsley and Charlotte, even at that age, they loved coming down and playing gift shop. They were 2/3 in the way and 1/3 helping, But soon you'll see that's changed from little girls into young women. 2020, of course, that ties right back into my grandpa's dilemma of the 1930s and 1940s. You know what I'm talking about. I'll give you a hint, mask. That was the first time I really, the COVID shutdown, I really appreciated and stood in awe more than ever before how my grandparents and others like other businesses ever made it in the 30s and 40s. And that was a real trying time for a lot of people. But it also caused us to try to be innovative. And then, like again, throughout the decades, you got to put money back into your business. It's probably the same with your home. You just can't erect it and expect it to last forever. The reason, short of making it just fresh, was over time the wood rotted and it was physically deteriorating. So we had this massive renovation project in place. And here we are completed, and people are roaming around and enjoying themselves. We also had our Kentucky daughter-in-law involved. This is Teal. She's out. She likes gardening. So son Eric, and Teal were they're teachers, so they spend a couple of months up here in the summertime and help out as they can. Back to our granddaughters. This was last summer. Ainsley is 11, and she worked the cash register, and she really was a help. Little Charlotte, a little younger, but still a lot of energy, a lot of spark, and we were really glad that they were with us. Now, I switched gears a little bit here. Team, using the acronym, I love acronyms, they're everywhere. Together, everyone achieves more. You can't really read it, but that's what the M is. Together, everyone achieves more. This is true for families, businesses, churches, libraries, you name it. Kind of some side examples of teamwork. All right, this is, I'll do some explaining on this one here. Spring training isn't quite like this. However, we do expect our staff to know what they're doing and to be trustworthy, loyal, friendly, so forth. We got a kick out of one of our staff members as a retired Spanish teacher. Another one of our staff is Angie, the famous Lucy. Yeah, what's her name? Rosie, not Lucy. Rosie. So both Diane and Angie got a kick out of that one right there. It's always our intention to treat people with respect. They're on vacation, we're working, but nonetheless, we want them to be happy, and it's paramount that our staff is happy too. And over the years, we have been so blessed with quality people. One of the things that I've carried the tradition on, I guess probably started by my grandpa, obviously here in the 1930s, we would have what they call staff or family photos at the end of the year. So Leanne can just rattle through these real quickly. These are just random shots taken every year of various people. Some of them, Mary, I'm not sure. You're in here someplace. I'm not sure if you're in this one at all. Pastor, there's Jeff Gwilt right here and Brent Figg. And again, this various times, this was this past year, we usually close the season with a party as such, appreciation. And one of the fun things about sort of the meal, everybody getting together in a relaxed atmosphere, we go around the table and each one shares something comical or something that unusual that took place that year. And we all leave with aching stomachs because we've been laughing so hard. And we just had some great times, but it sure is it's great to see all these people together and working with the public. And in fact, I think it was Diane. Where's Diane? Right here, the Spanish teacher. We got a Christmas card from her, kind of a form letter that sends out to all of her family and friends, and something about, and I spent my summer, how did she word that? I spent my summer selling products to people that didn't want them, or something like,
Selling products to people.
or something along the.
Need or something.
Yes, things they don't need. She enjoyed selling products that, people that they didn't leave their home in Kalamazoo to come up to buy such and such, but Diane would talk people into buying such and such. So quality people like that. Okay, next. Okay, it's always smiling. Okay, this is one phase of the. We're almost done here too. So hang on. I title this alumni. Every season, I look forward to it every year, because over the years we've had gobs and gobs of folks work for us, from high school kids all the way up to senior citizens. And it's easy to lose track, where they all scatter to the wind. And every year people will come back and reintroduce themselves, and sometimes they're local, sometimes I haven't seen them in 37 years. And it's just great to see them. Eric Jarvis. Eric is a pastor in South Haven, is that correct? And he comes up, just a great guy, originally from Sheboygan. He worked for us when he was a high school kid. Families, they come and now they got a family and so forth. Okay, next, okay, you probably recognize this gal here. So, again, sometimes they're local and other times they're far, far away. Mike Strauss. Mike still is an inspiration to me. Mike was a college kid going to college. He worked for us, for my dad, full-time, 40-hour week. He worked for Subletoka at the IGA, 40-hour week. He worked 2 jobs. And he worked for us for 3 years, I think, 3 years. He had 1 day off. He never, ever complained, never, ever called in sick. Always had a smile on his face. This lady here was from California, and she was with, I don't remember, I was just a kid, but she was with us the summer my brother drowned. Mike Scott. Many of you know Mike Scott. His son and daughter were the 4th generation that worked for the family business. The other gentleman over here, Sandy Maxwell. Sandy's dad was Dr. Maxwell. He was the first archaeologist at the fort, and we've got to know the Maxwell family very, very well. We were very, very close, still are. Sandy lives in East Lansing. Anyway, so I put this particular scene on here because this is oftentimes how summer or the season begins and ends. It's just a flash. 1 minute it's Memorial Day, and before you know it, we're looking at our schedule thinking, oh, we only have 1 more week of work left, And that's exactly what happens season after season. Present. Okay, here we are today. This time tomorrow, we're going to be, Lord willing, here in Atlanta Gift Show. Sometimes there's a fallacy going around that, boy, it must be nice to have the winter off. You work all summer and you take off and do nothing. That's not quite the case. There is a lot of shutdown responsibility, mostly on the financial bookwork phase of any business. And then for us, we're preparing for the spring of '24, because gifts just don't magically appear. You have to, and back to the comment about the lady that knows what's going on. You go to these gift shows, and Atlanta is the major one. There's 5 or 6 big shows across America. We're limited to our pocketbook and our space. Every time we've been going to a gift show, this Atlanta gift show, for 40 years, 30 plus years, and I'm still just stunned by how massive it is. It would make the Mall of America look like a Walmart. It's just a tremendously huge place. Roughly 100,000 people come to the Atlanta Mart, and this is a shot last year. Vicki and daughter-in-law Olivia and our granddaughter Ainsley will be coming with us again this year. But I'm certainly glad that they're there, because a lot of our business, I don't know what percentage, but a fair amount of it, is dealing with women's apparel, women's accessories versus jewelry. And if you want to look at me with, like a deer in the headlights when the customer comes up and asks, is this nickel or stainless steel? I have no clue, lady. Let me ask someone who knows what's going on. So the women, and by the way, I'm the only guy on the staff. So that's always another joke at the end of the year wherever our dinners are, I'll have one guy and 12, 13 ladies. So it's kind of the elk and the harem thing. But, okay, Mackinaw's my happy place. I don't think it takes a lot of explanation to tell you why that is. Off we go into the sunset.
And beyond.
We're just about done, not only with the presentation, but I'm not here to announce that this is going to be it for the season for us. But again, I wanted to make a shout out of thanks to the following. You can read them or not. Obviously, the Historical Society, the Library, the Use of the Property, Park Commission, and the Chamber of Commerce. Many people have asked me, well, what's going to happen to your son or grandchildren going to take over? And I say I'm not sure on that. I use Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I'm not sure exactly what the future holds. I think it's pretty safe to say we're going to be serving the traveling public this summer, and we'll just have to take it a year at a time. It's obvious that we won't be doing this forever and ever. So if any of you potentially want to run a gift shop, we are looking, the help wanted there in Michigan Works. Megan, if you're interested, we can sign on the dotted line right here. But anyway, yes, it's been a fun career. Again, I really enjoy the people part of the equation, and I know Ralph has shared with me many stories when he worked for my dad/grandpa. Mary has spent a lot of hours with the traveling public as well. And again, I'm always appreciative of their work. I think the common thread back to the alumni phase of this presentation was how much fun the person had when they were working for our business, and that means a lot to us, a tremendous amount. I guess with that, I thank you all for coming, for setting in, and maybe the spring come down and we'll give you some fudge. I have scattered around on the table assorted items that some of what you've seen here. I do have a couple quill boxes, but these are nice, but the real quality ones are not here right now. I know you'll still see quill work in Harbor Springs. I think Shorter's carries them. But boy, Bernie Parkey's was top notch, no doubt about it. Bernie's wife was into it to some degree. Bernie was 100% Ottawa, and his wife was, I don't know, 100% Caucasian. The daughter's name is Kathy? Brenda. Brenda's blonde, naturally blonde, just takes after, got all her mom's genes, blue eyes. And if she were to come here and say, I'm half Indian, you'd say, yeah, right, and I'm 7'10" too, you know. But Brenda has tried her best. I haven't seen Brenda in a long time. She was working on quill work, but I think that the part that's kind of sad is you have a artwork that's been going on for centuries, I think it'd be safe to say, and you're losing these artists. They're falling by the wayside. So when the Bernie Parkeys of the area pass on, and they don't pass their talents on to, or their love of quill work on to other people, they'll become museum pieces. So. Okay, well, let's see. Any Michigan fans in here?
Well, we all are today.
It might be the first quarter is ending right now. So.
Thank you.
Fear not, you'll have time to see the ball game.
Thank you very much.
Displays that Greg has out, and there are cookies here in the back
Oops.
that Donna has provided for us. So help yourself. Thank you all for coming.
Well, bring them over. Now, I must admit, we don't have a gallery anymore. The gallery's being rented out. I didn't insert that in my talk. Before COVID came into the world, we were itching on a way of,